The world is split between two races, humans and demons. But they hardly ever fought, since humans had nothing the demons wanted. The demons even used their magic to help folks out in exchange for cash. And they thought humans were pretty polite and cute. But this peace came to an end when humans discovered a type of immortal ore, brimming with a mysterious power. From there, they transformed the ore into magical treasures that could cast spells, and their fighting power grew insanely. With this newfound power, a commander orders her regiment to activate the magical treasures. Right after, a squadron points their artifacts and fires a powerful beam of blue energy. With this new strength, humans began to invade the demon race to claim more land and resources for themselves. They burned and pillaged everything, taking over 90% of the demons' lands. But things are unpredictable, and to balance the power between the two sides, our protagonist was born. In the midst of a battle, our protagonist asks his seniors to get out of the way because he's about to clear a path. With that, the young demon draws his enormous curved blade from his back, unleashing a powerful energy. With a single swing, the blade creates a massive energy slash that surges toward the enemy army. The power of the strike is so absurd that it carves a gash in the canyon, taking a ton of soldiers down with it. Seeing the destruction, the human commander is left speechless by the power displayed by the demon boy. She and her ally observe the trail of destruction left by the devastating attack. The explosion generated by the attack was so strong that it completely wiped out the human army in its path. In a panic, a soldier informs the base that the boy has gotten even stronger and is heading for the capital. Because of this, the human race, which once dominated, is now being driven to despair by our hero. Arriving in his hometown, a crowd of demons welcomes him with open arms, cheering for Lord Lin. Our protagonist is completely baffled by the reception, and his friends seem just as surprised as he is. The whole crowd chants his name while he wonders about the ceremony, and Muku explains that he's become the emperor's favorite. This is Muku, the war orphan he adopted and his only disciple, who says the nobles came running as soon as they heard of his return. In the middle of the crowd, his parents receive tons of praise from everyone, saying their son is simply incredible. Our protagonist complains that nobody cared about him when he was poor, and it seems like only the nobles are allowed to get close. His fiancé Danyanduo asks him not to reject the nobles so directly, despite all his military merit. Suddenly, the patriarch of the horse clan appears, wanting to gift the young man 20 luxury sports cars. Right after, the bear clan offers him a position as a martial arts instructor with a salary of 3 billion a year. The leader of the dragon clan thinks the previous offer is chump change and gifts him 20 mansions in the imperial city center. Awkwardly, our protagonist says he doesn't need any of that, because all you need to make friends is sincerity. At that moment, a group of demon girls approaches, saying that sincerity is the only thing they brought for him. A cow girl offers herself to him, but he turns her down flat, saying he already has a girlfriend. The party is interrupted when they announce the arrival of the eldest princess, who asks the crowd to make way. Our protagonist and his fiancé greet her, and she tells him to drop the formalities. The princess explains that her father sent her to invite him to the palace the next day. Our protagonist declines, saying it's not the time to celebrate as it would affect the army's morale. The princess isn't surprised by his answer, and seems to have expected something like that. She accepts the refusal and leaves, while the crowd comments that he even rejected the princess for his fiancé. Suddenly, the 8-inch heel of a shoe snaps in the middle of the party. Because of this, a woman with a horse-like face loses her balance and trips. She falls backward, unable to grab onto anything. But our protagonist acts fast and manages to catch the young woman before she hits the ground. He worries about the girl and asks if she's okay after the fall. She replies that she's fine, and in the background, the crowd watches in silence. The guy from the bear clan is shocked, thinking our hero is into that type of woman. With that, he yells for them to bring all the girls with the same features, while the horse patriarch cries tears of joy. The crowd scrambles to please the young man, and a bunch of girls hastily try to put on black stockings. The leader of the dragon clan gets annoyed and orders them to fetch girls who are already ready, as the clans fight to see who will please him first. Our protagonist loses his patience with the chaos, and a newspaper headline reports that all the girls in the region have been hired by him. Taking advantage of the crowd's departure, his shy parents decide to go home and prepare food. At night, the entire city celebrates the hero's victory with a huge party and magical fireworks. While walking through the festival with his fiancée and disciple, our protagonist is surrounded by an atmosphere of joy and celebration. From above, the city glows with the lights of fireworks and lanterns, showing the happiness of the demon people. Muku says goodbye, mentioning she's going to watch the lion dance and will meet him at home later. Danyandu also says goodbye to go get her parents, and our protagonist tells Muku to be careful, Elsewhere in the city, the little disciple has a blast, mesmerized by the lion dance performance. In a temple, the demons thank the immortals because, thanks to their blessing, they no longer have to be oppressed. The streets remain crowded with people partying and celebrating the new era of peace and prosperity for their race. Walking thoughtfully through the crowd with a paper mask on his face, our protagonist reflects on recent events. He realizes that, along with the demon race, they have both finally reached the pinnacle of power. With the scales tipped in his favor, he believes there's nothing left the humans can do to turn the tables. He thinks that in the next battle, he'll invade the human capital, and that his family is finally at peace. Itian remembers his parents working hard in the fields, and is happy they no longer have to worry. Suddenly, a memory surfaces with the voice of his parents calling him affectionately. He recalls his poor childhood and how his family lived humbly in a small hut. His parents would tell him he didn't need to go to war, because the family already had enough food and clothes. They always worried and asked their son not to risk so much by going to the front lines in battles. Back in the present, our protagonist smiles, holding several gifts he received from the townspeople. Satisfied, he walks home, thinking his parents must have already arrived and are waiting for him. However, as he places his hand on the door to open it, the young man feels that something is very wrong. He opens the door and is met with a terrible scene, seeing his mother trapped by a strange green energy. In shock, our protagonist sees his parents hanging from the ceiling and screams for them in complete despair. With her last bit of strength, his mother looks at her son and whispers for him to run as fast as possible. Immediately after, their bodies are enveloped in a purple energy and explode right in front of him. The explosion creates a massive energy wave that spreads throughout the area, destroying everything. Atian realizes it was a trap and that there was poison hidden in the bodies. The purple poison begins to corrode Atian's body, and he screams in pain as his skin dissolves. From a distance, a girl celebrates hysterically, saying he took the bait and fell right into the trap. She used over 300 drops of deadly poisons created specifically for him. This is Xiaorui, humanity's #1 demon sealer, who refined the potion for 1,028 days. Looking at the mountain, she says the amount of poison is enough for him to drink a whole pot. Facing the situation, an army of soldiers kneels, waiting for the right moment for the final attack. One of the soldiers holds up a mirror, showing the reflection of a bearded man with glowing red eyes. Right after, Mang Feng, the demon sealing king, orders the ambush troops to prepare for the attack. Following orders, the soldiers aim their weapons and prepare to fire all their immortal or bullets. From there, a massive firefight begins, with dozens of energy projectiles being fired at once. Weakened by the poison, our protagonist can't dodge and is hit head-on by several shots. One of the shots is so powerful that it tears one of his arms clean off on the spot. Unbalanced and severely injured, Ian retreats as more bullets fly in his direction. A soldier comments that normally he wouldn't be harmed by this, but his physical functions are declining. With that, the soldier yells that they must seize this unique opportunity to finally finish him off. Even injured, our protagonist stomps the ground hard, gathering his last bit of strength to fight back. With a powerful leap, he jumps into the sky, trying to escape the poisonous smoke and the soldiers. But one of the soldiers faces him with a determined look, having expected this reaction. Suddenly, a gigantic green energy net appears in the sky, completely surrounding the young man. The trap is actually a demon sealing art made with several celestial lanterns. The soldiers reveal that Shirui gathered almost all the rope-type magical treasures for the trap. With that, Atian is caught by the energy ropes with no way to defend himself. Immediately, the soldiers begin to pull the ropes with all their might to immobilize him. Our protagonist grits his teeth and uses all his strength to resist the imminent capture. His strength is so absurd that even injured, he drags all the soldiers across the ground at once. Surprised, they yell for the others to hurry up and finish him off once and for all. As he's being pulled down, he envelopes his hand in powerful energy. Completely tied up, Itian is dragged into a dark abyss, helpless. However, his one remaining hand begins to glow with an intense, golden light. He realizes the ambush was planned a long time ago and decides he cannot be defeated. Seeing no way out, our protagonist summons a magical treasure called the Chuyankan cloth to protect himself. With a wicked smile on her face, Xia Rui orders her regiment of magical treasures to attack with everything they've got. At that moment, one of the soldiers takes advantage of the opening and stabs the young man with his purple energy-tipped spear. Right after, several soldiers surround and attack him simultaneously, telling him to go to heck. Even injured, Itian doesn't give up and prepares a counter-attack using his demonic magic. A powerful golden light envelops his body and shapes itself into hundreds of energy birds. From there, he unleashes the 100 flying birds technique, which explodes in all directions. The soldiers recognize the escape technique and shout not to let any of the birds get away. the golden birds fly wildly, crashing against the energy ropes of the trap. In the midst of the chaos, a single energy bird manages to find an opening and breaks through the net. Two soldiers are startled by its speed and suspect that his body is already adapting to the poison. The golden bird stares at the net with a determined look, showing it has a consciousness of its own. With a swift movement, the bird passes through the barrier and finally manages to escape the trap. As the birds dissolve, revealing themselves to be just illusions, the real Atian falls from the sky. He lands hard on the ground, and even without an arm and poisoned, he prepares to continue the fight. With a look of pure determination, he celebrates because his escape plan worked. But Xia Rui appears, flying, and mockingly asks where the little baby thinks he's going. Our protagonist turns around, surprised and scared, as he wasn't expecting this. Far away, Muko panics and tells someone to notify the officers immediately. She points to the mountain and yells for them to report that Lord Lin has been attacked. Back at the fight, Xia Rui smiles and greets the young man in a very cynical way. With his face stained with blood, Atian stares at her in shock, unable to react. In the blink of an eye, she defeats him and asks if he has any last wishes. He says that in his entire military career, he never took out a human civilian. The young man continues, saying that his family and wife were just demon civilians. Xia Rui laughs and says she was just being polite and didn't expect him to have a wish. But he insists and asks her to please leave those who are still alive in peace. She reveals that it was her original idea to wipe out his entire family. Our protagonist is completely terrified by the woman's cruelty. Xia Rui explains that his genes are the greatest danger humanity has ever faced. With his cold, lifeless gaze reflected on her spear, she states that his entire family must be eliminated. At that moment, a soldier calls her on the communicator with an urgent mission report. The young man reports that 43 relatives on his paternal side have been successfully captured. Another soldier confirms that 57 relatives on his maternal side have also been fully controlled. Even his fiancé Dan Yunduo's family was caught, and she screams desperately for him to run as fast as possible. With a cruel smile, Xia Rui takes the communicator and gives the order to eliminate all of them without mercy. Immediately after, the soldiers advance and attack the innocent civilians, who cry and scream for their lives. The troops fire their weapons and attack the crowd, which screams in pain and despair in the face of the massacre. The screams of agony echo through the night as the carnage continues without stopping for a single second. After the massacre, Xia Rui dismisses the government soldiers, with the body of the fallen demon hero in the background. Tian's consciousness fades, and he realizes he doesn't even have the strength to scream anymore. In his final moments, he mentally apologizes to His Majesty, the Emperor. He laments because the demon race was one step away from achieving peace for 100 generations. Tian apologizes to his parents and his people for involving everyone in his tragic and painful end. He also apologizes to his fiancée, remembering when she would ask about the marriage proposal. He remembers a moment from his childhood when his beloved kissed him on the cheek for the first time. But her father didn't like it at all and chased him with a broom, calling him a stinky brat. In his last breath, he sees himself holding the hand of his beloved, now lifeless on the ground. Dan Yunduo lies in a pool of blood, surrounded by the bodies of her family. With his vision blurred and ants crawling on his face, he stares at the woman in front of him. Tian questions her about her family and mentions the legend of demon reincarnation. Suddenly, Xia Rui's water breaks and her assistant panics, thinking she's about to give birth. She ignores it and assures him that not a single chromosome of his family will be left behind. As his consciousness fades, shining coins float around him in a dark background. Our protagonist wakes up in a sort of coffin, surrounded by the coins, and wonders what they are. He finds himself in a small boat on a dark river and asks where he is. A strange creature with glowing eyes replies that this is the path to the afterlife. Before him appears a deity who introduces himself as King Yanluo and says that he is already gone. Surprised, he says he didn't know the king existed, and the entity scolds him for his lack of respect. Our protagonist ignores him and asks what he meant by the path to the afterlife. King Yanluo explains that when the boat reaches the end of the river, it will be his turn to reincarnate. Seeing the line of boats, he discovers he'll have to wait 500 years and gets furious. But because he was so incredible, the king activates a status addition program for his next life. Our protagonist is confused and asks what the heck this status addition means. The entity explains that he can distribute points into attributes like intelligence or wealth. Normally, even the most incredible people receive at most about 5 points for their good deeds. However, our hero's case is completely different from any other soul there. For his deeds, he has 1,028 points, and upon seeing the time option, he shouts that he wants that. Without a second thought, the young man starts putting all his points into the option to reincarnate sooner. He believes he can make up for the rest with talent, but time is what he really needs. With that, he uses 68 points at once, and his boat begins to transform. Desperate to return, he continues to press the time button without stopping for a single second. From there, his wait time decreases to 471 years, and his boat speeds up. But that's not enough, and the young man continues to spend all his points without hesitation. Immediately after, his boat becomes a blur of light, overtaking all the other souls in line. With another 281 points, his boat transforms, and the time drops to 312 years. Our protagonist yells that he doesn't care if he's born mediocre or without limbs. He just wants to go back and swears that even if only his teeth are left, he'll sink them into his enemy's neck. Meanwhile, in the real world, Shirui goes into labor right in the middle of nowhere. Back on the river of the afterlife, the young man's boat cuts through the water at an absurd speed. Spending 993 points, his waiting time drops to just 27 hours. Seeing the situation, Shiru's assistants yell for them to bring a medical bed because it's too late. The young demon focuses on his goal with a look of pure determination and fury. With incredible speed, his boat finally reaches the end of the river of the afterlife. A bright light appears in the darkness, indicating that his journey in the afterlife is at an end. He feels he's reaching the other side, and a message informs him that his points have run out. His eyes shine intensely, while in the real world, the doctor announces that the head is already out. The doctors are amazed to see that the newborn opened his eyes as soon as he was born. Right after, the doctor announces to the mother that it's a boy and congratulates everyone on the birth. Our protagonist, now reborn, wonders in confusion if this is really his next life. Our protagonist is reborn, confused, and questions whether he is human or demon, while his new mother asks to see him. Upon seeing the woman's face, he is completely shocked because he recognizes her instantly. This is Shiroi, his former enemy, who shouts with happiness that he is looking at her. She squeezes him and says she could just eat him up. He's so cute, leaving the young man terrified by the situation. Suddenly, King Yahello appears and greets Lin Potion, saying it's been a long time since they've seen each other. Our protagonist is utterly confused and wonders if that is really King Yahello. The entity reveals that his reincarnation is complete, and that he will erase his memories of his past life. In the real world, Shiri celebrates having a son while a doctor tells her to rest. The king explains that his mother cannot see him, because she would be frightened by his divine appearance. With that, he touches a type of light pen to the boy's forehead to begin the process. Our protagonist panics as he feels the entity's power acting on his body. From there, King Yahello unleashes an explosion of energy that sends everyone flying. The golden tool begins to pull a type of energy from the small baby's head. He realizes that his memories and power are being extracted and sees the image of Shirui laughing. But he refuses to forget and angrily grabs the tool with all his strength. Even as a baby, his hand fills with energy, and he holds the tool with absurd force. King Yahello tells him not to waste his effort, as erasing memories is standard procedure. With his eyes glowing in fury, the divine entity orders the young man to release the tool immediately. But our protagonist resists, and the king complains that he just wants to clock out and go home. The scene cuts to 2.5 years ago in a population center in the demon race's territory. There, a blonde-haired man screams, releasing a powerful golden energy from his body. This is Yan Chong, one of the 12 stars of natural disaster and humanity's strongest combat power. Using his gravity magical treasure, he levitates dozens of giant rocks into the sky. From there, he launches a flaming meteor at the city, yelling for the demon race to go to heck. Fortunately, the young Lin Potion was on guard and calmly launches a small green flame upwards. The flame transforms into a gigantic energy dragon that lunges forward to protect the city from the attack. Sometime later, a demon reads the news in the paper, shocked by the young man's power, and demands his promotion. Because of this, Lin Potion and the 12 stars became destined opponents on the battlefield. In another confrontation, one of the stars named Leng Juankyu creates a massive tsunami that advances against the army. Amidst the panicking crowd, our protagonist gathers his energy, preparing to defend his people. The 13 disaster stars had immense spiritual power, and even our protagonist could only seal them. Using his magic, he freezes the tsunami completely, sealing Leng Qiankyu in November of 3760. Soon after, he faced Zen Master Shi Hang, one of the members who had the power to create great earthquakes. But the young man managed to defeat him too and sealed him with magic chains in April of the same year. Next on the list was Tian Taizui, who used the power of an active volcano and was also sealed by our hero. Then, the user of the man-eating swamp Yao Yoyao also met the same fate. One by one, our protagonist sealed all the disasters like the plague, the thunder, and the earth fire. However, with Lin Potion's passing a few minutes ago, the seals he created began to unravel. The demonic magic that bound so many disasters lost its owner and dissipated completely throughout the world. Because of this, the ice prison that held Lang Qianqiu captive starts to crack all over. With a single swing of her sword, she breaks free and flies far away from that frozen place. At the same time, the other imprisoned members also manage to escape their prisons. Thus, all 12 stars of natural disaster finally manage to escape at once. Back in the present, our protagonist mentally says that they were all very lucky for now. From there, he absorbs all the golden energy from the king's tool into his body. Faced with the situation, King Yanlu is startled by the explosion of red energy that spreads out. He is completely shocked by the strength the little baby is demonstrating. With unwavering determination, our protagonist pulls the tool from his head with all his might. Suddenly, the entity remembers something important he had almost forgotten about the young man. He still has almost half of his original power, used to watch over the 12 disaster stars. The king shouts at him to stop being arrogant because his body cannot handle so much demonic power. But the boy ignores him and continues to pull the needle, while the king warns that he will consume himself. The entity says that his power and memories will be taken to the realm of the gods for research. With a furious look, the king shouts that his past life is over, and that he must accept his fate. Our protagonist glares at him with a look of pure fury, refusing to give up. From there, he lets out a deafening scream that creates an explosion of multicolored energy. The wave of power expands with absurd force, showing all his hidden potential. From the middle of the light, a voice says that Lin Potion never accepts the fate imposed on him. The king is startled, and the voice continues, saying that he is the god of reincarnation with absolute control. But the gods have a clear division of labor, and each one takes care of their own area. Our protagonist faces the king, and says that he cannot influence the affairs of the mortal realm. With that, he shouts that he will take the cores that hold his magic and scatter them across the world. When he grows up, the remaining memories will guide him to recover his powers one by one. Furthermore, he refuses to believe that his reincarnation was just a coincidence. With his body glowing, he swears that he will also settle the score with King Yanluo. From there, he releases and scatters all his power cores throughout the world. The divine entity just watches without reaction as the cores spread across the sky. Meanwhile, a demon couple prepares to fight over one of the purple cores. A boy on a horse sees a fire core and desperately screams for his brother. In another corner of the city, an old demon official starts laughing manically. He raises his arms and shouts that he is now the most powerful official in the entire demon race. That night, Lin Potion's cores crossed the skies like meteors in the dark. The crowd looked up at the colored lights that once surrounded the hero, flying in all directions. They stood still, completely speechless at the bizarre scene. Realizing it wasn't a dream, the people faced the unacceptable reality before them. Amid the rain and despair, Muku screams her master's name, feeling the pain of loss. Their hero had fallen and his powers scattered across the world like beams of colored light. King Yanlu observes the situation from afar before disappearing completely into the darkness. Lying on the ground, our protagonist hears the king say that he was incredible before vanishing. With a tired look and an injured body, he feels like he is about to pass out at any moment. His consciousness weakens, and the memories of his past life begin to blur. Slowly, his eyes begin to close as he loses all his remaining strength. In his blurred vision, he focuses on the image of Shiarui, who is kneeling on the dirty ground. The woman starts to crawl slowly towards him with a determined look on her face. With a smile on her lips, she extends her hand to carefully pick him up. He starts to not recognize her face, but to him, that no longer matters at that moment. He swears to himself that when he grows up, he will recover his powers and memories one by one. At that moment, she will just be a casualty on his inevitable path to revenge. The medical team is confused, not knowing what happened, and decides to focus on surviving first. Far away, Muku screams with hatred and tears, demanding her master's life back. With her demonic magic, the girl attacks the medical team with a thorny whip. One of the soldiers is hit head on and yells for Sheru to flee as fast as possible. She unleashes her 100-toothed whip technique, punishing all the enemies present. With that, the girl finishes off all the government troops who couldn't escape in time. Our protagonist recognizes his disciple and is surprised to hear her screams from a distance. With a look full of hatred, she extends her hand towards her fallen master. He realizes his merit points are gone and that he can no longer reincarnate again. Desperate, she tries to reach her master's body to save him from the woman. But the whip hits Shiroi head-on, who curses him, calling him a little brat for protecting her. Muku realizes too late that she accidentally hit her master's body. With her face full of tears, she can't believe what she has just done. She remembers her master telling her never to attack people who can't defend themselves. He also asked her not to become like the human race, and she promised she wouldn't. From there, she lets out a scream of pure agony with the image of her master in her mind. Our protagonist starts to laugh strangely as he is hit by the whips. Being hit by the attack, Shiarui laughs manically and activates an Earth Escape talisman to get away. The item explodes in a cloud of dust, and Muku watches the scene, not believing what happened. After the smoke clears, all that remains are the thorns of her whip stuck in the ground. Muku is paralyzed, realizing she not only hit her master but also made him disappear. Completely alone and desolate, the girl falls to her knees on the ground, not knowing what to do now. With the news of the hero's fall, the demon race tries to make a peace treaty with the humans, but as expected, humanity doesn't accept and launches a massive counter-attack against them. In the midst of the chaos, Muku cries desperately, calling for her family and her beloved master. Fortunately, our protagonist, even as a newborn, already had a response prepared for the situation. He injects an absurd amount of demonic power to expand the celestial dragon guards. From there, the energy creature lunges forward and hits a mountain range with full force. The impact is so strong that a violent earthquake shakes an entire nearby demon city. Immediately after, the dragon's head emerges from the ground, causing mass destruction. The demons run in desperation from the tremor, not understanding what is happening outside. Faced with the situation, the entire city is lifted from the ground by a giant pillar of earth. From there, the pillar of earth rises to the heavens, and the entire city is carried far away towards space. Thus, the gigantic celestial dragon carries the city to safety through outer space. The creature carries not only the city but also huge chunks of land on its back. Its passage is so grand that even the forest animals stop to watch the scene. The creature's size is colossal, and it flies over the ocean as if it were a floating continent. With a determined look, the dragon continues on its path to fulfill its master's last order. Following his wish, the dragon saved the 4 largest cities, giving the demon race a chance. Because of this, the 3-year counter-attack he led ended up being a complete failure. Meanwhile, our protagonist, now a helpless baby, just cries, unable to do anything. His new mother picks him up and wonders how such a cute little thing can exist in the world. He holds the woman's hand with his tiny little hand, and she comments that it's very normal. A history book reports that a new chapter in the war between the races is about to begin. Shiarui smiles affectionately because, at that time, she only had one thought in her mind. She says she could watch him all day, but she's called for an experiment right then. While singing to the baby, she pours a liquid into an experiment and swears to protect him forever. The scene cuts to a cold, snowy night with Shiarui walking alone towards a distant house. Feeling cold, she wonders why it suddenly started snowing while holding a flask with a blue liquid. The woman complains that all the servants went away for the new year, and no one came to pick her up. Suddenly, a child's voice shouts, "Mom," and our protagonist appears, all bundled up and happy in the snow. The two see each other from a distance, and Shiarui is surprised to see little Tian there in the cold. She gets irritated and asks who let him out in this cold, and scolds him for not staying at home. The little hero just stays silent with his head down after getting scolded by his mother. Without saying a word, he takes a small jar from inside his coat that seems to be very warm. He then offers the jar to his mother, saying he brought her some hot sugar water. Shiarui is shocked to realize he left the house just to bring her something warm to drink. The boy apologizes with a sad face because he thought she would be happy to see him there. A man appears and tells her to drink it quickly, because the boy ran home 3 times to reheat the water. Completely flustered, the woman starts to laugh, saying the little one left her speechless. She asks why he didn't wait at home, and the boy replies that coming to her was different. As they walk together, the woman stares at the jar with a genuine and affectionate smile on her face. The boy notices she drank it all, and the woman replies that it was sweet and warm enough to heat her up. At another time in the lab, the little hero is mesmerized by his mother's experiments. During a meal, our protagonist says with his mouth full that eating with her is the best thing in the world. The little guy hugs her and says he wants to marry her when he grows up, leaving Shiarui very excited about the idea. The other woman in the room calls them perverts, while the mother shows off her son to the maids. To have some fun, the two decide to spend a day at an amusement park full of rides and attractions. With that, the woman and the boy greatly enjoy the Ferris wheel ride with smiles on their faces. However, the park uses demons as slaves, and a man whips one of them to make the wheels spin faster. Another demon is forced to spit water like a fountain and gets scolded for not doing the job right. Meanwhile, our protagonist and his mother go down a water slide, super happy, without a care in the world. Arriving at the haunted house, a guide says with a smile that everything inside is completely real. The woman explains that the demon slaves are expensive and pretend to suffer to scare the children who enter. To prove her point, she even shakes one of the demons and assures them that they don't feel any real pain. Soon after, the two go on the roller coaster and continue to enjoy their fun day at the park. To end the day, they go down a giant slide, and the boy ignores the ride's safety rules. After a busy day, the two take a nap on the grass, completely exhausted. In another fun moment, the mother pushes him on the swing, but the boy ends up falling flat on his face. Despite the tumbles, Shiorui picks him up and smothers him with affection, showing the love she feels for him. One newspaper says that demons don't feel pain, but another medical article claims they feel even more than humans. Back in the present, the two are watching TV, and a breaking news report catches their attention. The news reports that Lidazi, a pro-human demon official, has initiated a coup. With that, the demon emperor and his entire family ended up being taken prisoner by the traitor. Political experts believe the new leader will start a hunt for Lin Potion's former subordinates. The anchor laments the fall of the former minister, and Shiorui comments that it reminds her of the case of Lin Potion's family. Our protagonist is shocked to hear his mother say that the hero's entire family was completely eliminated. The boy is terrified by the news while Shiorui laughs, saying that even humans thought that was an exaggeration. Later that night, the woman sleeps peacefully in her bed without a care in the world. However, our protagonist is awake and in a panic, clutching his head tightly because of the memories. The next day, the woman prepares a special dish of 5 cauliflower demon meat for breakfast. Seeing that he hasn't eaten anything, Shiorui asks what's wrong, as that was his favorite dish. The woman says she bought slaves from the fire-tongued civet clan to cook for them. With a frightened look, our protagonist is speechless upon hearing his mother's cruel words. He says he's not hungry, and that he's been feeling very strange lately for no apparent reason. With that, the young man explains that he feels he has something important to do but can't remember what it is. The boy reveals that he always dreams he is surrounded by the bodies of his parents and his wife. Shiorui gets super excited with the revelation and is surprised to learn that her son already has a wife. She asks if he likes his wife more or her, and the young man says it's a different feeling. With a determined look, our protagonist says he would be willing to give everything for her without a second thought. A memory of his childhood emerges, showing his beloved hugging him tightly and affectionately. The other demons around mock him for being all flushed from the unexpected situation. The girl smiles at him and says she knows he likes her, calling him by the name Itn. But the happy memory is cut short by the vision of her trapped by energy lines and asking for his help. Back in the present, he is shocked and completely terrified by the image he just saw. His beloved's head appears floating over the dining table, begging to be saved. Immediately after, a scream of pure terror echoes through the house on the dark, rainy night. With the scream, Shiorui wakes up and hugs him, frightened, realizing the boy is burning with fever. The woman panics because her only skill is taking people out, and she has no idea how to save them. Meanwhile, in the young man's mind, a mysterious voice says with a smile that the time to awaken has finally come. An entity appears and introduces itself as the remaining power of his last demonic core. She remembers when he was born and managed to protect her while the other cores scattered. Because of this, she is different from the others, as she received special and preferential treatment from him. The woman reveals herself as the Worldview Brain, the first demonic core of his past life. She dramatically laments that her poor master had his entire family wiped out. But the entity shows her true face, and with a wicked smile, says it served them all right. Then, she starts to cry scandalously and complain about being born as a demonic core. The woman complains that she can't eat or have fun, and can only daydream about him all day. With hatred, she screams that they all deserve a bad end, because they can be with him physically, and she can't. Full of jealousy, she shatters a photo of him with his family and curses his fiancé, Dan Yunduo, in particular. The entity freaks out, just thinking that she would have to watch him with his wife from inside his head. Soon after, she starts having hallucinations of the two and screams for her brain to stop thinking about it. Completely unhinged, she screams that everyone will perish because in this life, Itn belongs only to her. Soon after, she laughs manically and says that his human body needs to be able to satisfy her. Because of this, our protagonist appears passed out while the entity moves away ominously. From there, she holds him and reveals that she liked him, because the young man was very strong. But she warns that if he remains weak, she will corrode his body with demonic power until the end. With a wicked smile, she says that afterward, she can simply switch to a new host. The entity wonders how far his new mother will go for him, and Shiorui seems desperate about her son. Thus, a month later, they go to a dark place called Black Swamp Corner. There, a man sells demonic cores and even demon children with a buy one get one free promotion. Other vendors offer demon kidneys and bones, showing how terrible the place is. With that, the two arrive at a medical clinic called Chun's Medical Clinic in search of help. A masked doctor examines the boy and seems to recognize the strange symptoms immediately. With his red eyes glowing, he states that he fears that in his past life, he was of the demon race. Our protagonist is all embarrassed and wonders if past lives really exist. Shiarui replies that she heard it from the older demon sealers of her master's generation. She explains that in the 10,000-year history of the continent, some humans claim to be reincarnated. The woman continues, saying that they had memories of their past life, and that she thought her master was bragging. But since she had been searching for doctors everywhere for the past few months, the search had led to absolutely nothing. Suddenly, she remembered old events and felt that the symptoms were very similar to what her master used to talk about. Because of this, she decided to go to his hometown to find a witch doctor and try her luck. The doctor confirms that ancient texts did indeed write about this illness, and that he knows what it is. He says that the power left over from his demonic past life has a strong rejection of the boy's current human body. Thus, it's not strange at all for him to have this symptom of a fever that spreads throughout his body. With that, Shiarui asks what should be done to solve her son's illness. The doctor replies that from a medical perspective, there is nothing to be done, and that the boy will pass away within a year. Desperate, she shouts if there is no way out, and he reveals that there is a difficult way outside of medicine. He reaffirms that the essence of the boy's illness is the will left over from his past life as a demon. In his mind, a creature in one of the tanks seems to call our protagonist by the name of Lord Lin. From there, the doctor suggests that if he eats demonic cores, the body's resistance will decrease, and the illness will disappear. With a smile on her face, Shiarui says she knows that the demonic core is the source of all power for the demon race. The doctor explains that in the past, humans ate demonic cores to learn magic and transform. With a smile, Shiarui thinks the method is excellent because she can get as many cores as she wants for her son. But she has reservations and asks what the heck this demonification he mentioned means. From there, the doctor says that the boy's body and thought patterns will become more and more like those of the demon race. Faced with the situation, he questions whether she can accept that one day her son will become a complete demon. The woman is completely horrified by the question, and her happy expression vanishes instantly. The strange creatures trapped in the lab's glass tanks only increase her dread. She remains in a state of shock, not knowing what to answer the masked doctor in front of her. With a face full of anger and conflict, she grits her teeth, thinking about what to do with her son. In his thoughts, our protagonist already accepts his end because he knows his mother won't accept this. He is sure that his mother cannot accept this treatment plan under any circumstances. After all, her entire family, along with her friends and teachers, were eliminated by the demon race. Because of this trauma, she has over 10,000 reasons to simply abandon him there. The demon race suffers one defeat after another, and the survivors have become third-class citizens. They are treated like cattle with no rights, while a human child enjoys the scene. Seeing her reaction, the doctor feels awkward and tells her to just pretend he didn't say anything. He explains that if her son becomes a demon, all of humanity will boycott her, and the government will strip her of her titles. Furthermore, he reminds her that her fighting power has not fully recovered since the battle against Lin Potion. Because of this, it would be very difficult for her to survive in the world without the support of the human government. Faced with the situation, he apologizes and says it was his mistake to present that crazy plan. But suddenly, Shiarui says that it's great, leaving our protagonist completely surprised by her response. With a smile, she repeats that it's great because it means her son can still be saved from the illness. The woman ignores the fact that he will become a demon and tells the doctor not to mention the race anymore. With that, she hugs him tightly and shouts that she will raise him even if he becomes a blade of grass. Our protagonist cries with emotion and calls for his mother, touched by her unexpected attitude. The doctor agrees to write the prescription, but the news that Shiarui's son is a demon spreads quickly. A newspaper shows the headline saying that the human heroine's son is actually a demon. From there, the demon sealing king announces that Shiarui has lost all her titles and become a commoner. In his diary, our protagonist writes that high-quality cores are rare and his illness cannot wait. Thus, the woman begins to sell the family's assets to buy cores on the black market. With that, the family's situation went from bad to worse, and Shiarui ended up deep in debt. 2 years pass, and the young man's illness improves a little, but now they live in complete poverty. With nowhere to go, the two wander aimlessly through the snow, as they have even lost their house. He asks if his mother can no longer conjure flames because he is cold but regrets it instantly. The young man remembers that poison-type magical treasures work by depleting the user's future power. His mother had already used almost all of her power, and the rest was spent in battles to get cores for him. Because of this, she is no different from a normal person and can no longer use her flames. Seeing the woman's state, our protagonist blames himself, and thinks that all of this happened because of him. Looking at a warm house, he reflects that the creator of the world must hate everyone to create so much suffering. But a man opens the door and kicks them off his property while the woman begs for help. Without any pity, the man slams the door in their faces, leaving them outside in the biting cold. The boy shivers from the cold, unable to get warm, as the snow continues to fall relentlessly. Suddenly, Shioroi breaks into a crazy smile and shouts her son's name with a strange energy. With open arms, she runs towards him, shouting something about a robot fusion. Immediately after, the woman hugs him with all her might and asks with a smile if he still feels cold. With a smile, she hugs him tightly and says she is the strongest sealer in the world and can do anything. Our protagonist cries, worried that his mother is cold, and thinks that the creator made her to endure all of this. The boy believes that, like the creator, his mother is all-powerful, and at night, a voice calls him to wake up. The woman wakes him up and shows him a sweet potato she brought, saying he must be starving. With an excited smile on her face, she proudly shows the roasted sweet potato she got for her son. She explains that she visited several houses, and one family finally gave them the food after much begging. Almost out of strength, the young man asks if she also has something to eat, as she hasn't eaten in days. Immediately, the woman breaks the potato in half and replies that she does, very cheerfully. From there, she gives him the bigger piece, and says she wouldn't let herself starve because she has to take care of him. The boy starts eating the potato, finding the smell good and the taste delicious after so long. As they eat, a mysterious figure approaches their makeshift shelter in the middle of the snow. It's a wounded little demon boy who greets them shyly and says he smelled the food. Very embarrassed, the demon boy asks if they can share some of the food with him. Shioroi stares at the boy and instantly realizes he belongs to the demon race she hates so much. But to everyone's surprise, she simply says yes without showing any resentment. But to everyone's surprise, Shioroi stares at him with a cold look and asks for his demonic core in exchange for the food. The demon boy laughs and says she must be kidding, because he's the person who most wants to rip out his own core. He then explains that if he had a warrior's core, he could sell it to feed his sick sister. Upon hearing the boy's story, the woman falls silent with a thoughtful expression on her face. He asks if she is of the demon race, and the woman tells him to open his eyes, but the boy reveals he was born blind. Thus he realizes she is human and scared, apologizes and begs not to be hit. Shioroi is surprised to learn that people still harm him, and he confirms that humans really hate them. Being blind, he says that begging is a matter of luck because a demon might give food, but a human will only beat him. The woman reflects on the demon race and how difficult survival is while looking at our protagonist. Suddenly, the boy senses a faint demonic aura and asks if she is also of the same race as him. She denies it and says she is human but reveals that her son, our protagonist, is of the demon race. With tears in her eyes, the woman shows all the sadness of her current situation and the weight of her choices. Without a second thought, she breaks the warm, sweet potato she was holding in half to share. Then Shioroi offers one of the pieces to the demon boy, who stares at her, not believing the gesture. With a smile, he thanks her and says that with this, he and his sister can survive another day. The demon boy leaves and wishes her peace, saying that good people always receive good rewards. With that, Shioroi becomes thoughtful about the phrase, and remembers that her teacher used to say the same thing. Looking at the makeshift shelter in the snow, the woman questions if she is really a good person. Suddenly, a memory emerges and our protagonist appears sick, spitting up a red liquid. In despair, Shioroi shouts at the black market vendor, asking how the money is not enough. Holding her son in her arms, she complains that this time it's not a high-level demonic core. The merchant says that he is the one who has the final say, and that even though she's broke, she should have some money. With a cynical smile, the man taunts her for not wanting to pay double for her son, and she says she has nothing left. The woman screams in desperation that she needs just 3 more demonic cores to finally cure the boy. Thus she kneels and begs, saying she will pay later and that she is willing to do anything. The vendor looks down at her with a strange expression on his face, considering her proposal. Through her tears, the woman begs for help in the name of the old days when she saved humanity. She throws herself on the ground and continues to plead with the man, without a shred of dignity. Our protagonist narrates that to this day, he doesn't know how his mother managed to convince that merchant. From that night on, his body began to improve greatly, and he wonders if the gods took pity on them. Over time, the two manage to get back on their feet and walk hand in hand through a sunny park. Our protagonist is overjoyed to see the 5 colorflower demon meat that they can afford now. They have fun together at the park, and the woman plays on the swing while the young man throws water at a crying boy. Their financial situation gradually improves, and the concentration of cores in the boy's medicine decreases. Shiarui gets excited and says that in half a year, she will rent a laboratory to refine his medicine. But our protagonist feels guilty, because he knows his mother had to sell the laboratory because of him. With that, the boy hugs her crying, and she asks why, since she was in a good mood with the food. Suddenly, the woman opens a box and reveals a purple demonic core that drips a strange liquid. The two stare at the glowing core, and the woman shows a determined and slightly scary smile. Sitting at the table, he asks if that is the demonic core of the former hero, Lin Potion. Shiarui confirms with a smile and remembers that the hero fell in battle because of her. She reveals that one of his cores fell nearby, and that she kept it a secret all this time. The woman explains that the power of that core is so strong that it can cure his illness once and for all. Thus, she looks at him with a serious expression and tells him to consume the core to heal himself. Faced with the proposal, our protagonist remains silent and stares at the core, not knowing what to do. With that, our protagonist slowly extends his hand and prepares to pick up the core on the table. But a breaking news report on TV interrupts him, and he holds the item, surprised by what he hears. The anchor reports that the last city of the demon race has finally returned to human hands. She explains that the city is named for having the highest peak on the celestial dragon continent. From that peak, human magical airships can finally reach the dragon's head. With a grin from ear to ear, the woman addresses her compatriots with the excellent news. She shouts that the opportunity to invade the last refuge of the demon race has finally arrived. From there, a great battle begins between the two races to take full control of that location. The human soldiers advance with everything they have, and one of them attacks a demon with his spear without any mercy. Another soldier uses a magical talisman and lands a super powerful punch on one of the nearby demons. Riding a type of flying bomb, a soldier shouts for the troops to advance for the final attack. Immediately after, a giant airship with a temple on top approaches the demon's floating city. The soldiers climb up ladders on the side of the airship, preparing for the impending invasion. The fleet of airships approaches the head of the giant dragon and begins to attack relentlessly. With that, a shower of explosions hits the city wall in a massive and well-coordinated attack. In the Demon Council, Lali, the son of the traitor Li Daji, complains that many years have passed. A map shows the territory of the demon race, which stretches along the body of a giant dragon. He shouts that no one with the strength of Lin Potion has appeared, and an official reports that humans have invaded the city. The meeting takes place in the Council of King's Hall, and the priority is to protect the interests of the 7 noble families. With that, one of the pig-faced kings gets angry and starts cursing everyone in the meeting room. Soon after, the third ruling king accuses someone of having sold the location of the former hero. The pig king points and says he knows their character, and that it would be impossible to find him without a betrayal. The fourth tiger-faced king laments the outcome and remembers when Lin Potion was the leader. In a memory, the former hero says that his younger brothers had a talent similar to his. The seventh king complains that they didn't know humans would be so cruel as to eliminate the young man's entire clan. He accuses the second king of being the traitor, as he was promoted right after the hero fell in battle. The Tiger King gets angry and shouts that the former emperor didn't put him in power for him to lie in a coffin. He begs them to bring the hero back, and the third king asks about the demonic cores. The sixth king taunts him for caring about politics and tells them to find warriors to recover the cores. He explains that humans know Lin Potion's strength better than they do, and that it won't be easy at all. He reveals that the former hero's cores are either missing or have been taken by the 12 disaster stars. Thus, the sixth king states that getting one of Lin Potion's cores is harder than defeating the army. Suddenly, the princess appears as a hologram and criticizes the kings for not having a plan for the situation. She says that if they don't have a solution, she met someone who might be able to resolve the siege. The Tiger King gets angry with the princess and insults her, saying her family is done for and has no more power. He continues to shout and accuses her of still trying to place her own forces on the council. The pug-faced king says that only the former hero could solve this and that her family deserves a bad end. With a smile, the princess reveals that the person she found has a connection to the former demon hero. The other kings are shocked and wonder if the young man's family wasn't completely eliminated. Soon after, they question if it is his adopted son Muko, but dismiss the idea because he cannot see her. At that moment, the hall door opens, and all the kings stare at the entrance, completely surprised. From there, a mysterious person appears at the door, and all the council members turn to face her. Lalai is completely shocked by the figure at the door, and says he remembers that person from somewhere. The figure reveals herself to be a white-haired woman who stares at the kings without saying a single word. In a memory, the former hero and his fiancée, Dan Yun Duo, wish the lords a happy new year at a party. The woman reveals herself to be Dan Yunduo, the former hero's fiancée, and everyone is shocked because she was supposed to be gone. The Sixth King questions the princess if the woman is the method she mentioned to defeat the enemy. One of the kings taunts her, saying she's just the fiancée, and that if there was something more with the hero, it would be different. She looks at him mockingly and asks how he knows nothing happened and tells him to shut up. The Pig King says she is useful because she is the #1 woman in the world, and the ultimate trophy of all. Immediately, the other kings agree with the idea and plan to hand her over as a gift to the human general. They believe they can exchange her for special treatment and ensure the safety of their noble families. Faced with the situation, Dan Yunduo just stares at them in silence, showing no reaction. Suddenly, a thread of red energy begins to form in her hand, preparing for an attack. With a swift movement, she releases the energy thread, which expands with absurd force throughout the room. Immediately after, the red thread flies out the window and advances at high speed towards the human army. The energy spreads throughout the city, creating a massive web that surrounds the entire battlefield. From there, the thread hits one of the wall's towers and completely destroys it with a single blow. The energy web causes a series of massive explosions on the ground, taking out several enemy soldiers. With that, the human soldiers are thrown far away by the force of the attack, with no chance to defend themselves. The energy web continues to cause massive destruction all over the battlefield. With that, Dan Yunduo retracts her energy and asks if they can finally talk now. Faced with the situation, the pig-faced and tiger-faced kings are terrified by the woman's power. She reveals that her beloved left a demonic core for her before he departed from that world. The kings are completely shocked by the revelation and can't believe what they just heard. From there, the princess smiles, as she had expected this reaction from all of them. In a memory, the princess accepts the hero's refusal, and the crowd comments that he rejected her for his fiancée. The young princess seems very thoughtful about the events of that specific day. She narrates that as a child, she was very envious of Dan Yunduo for being able to stay by the hero's side. Then, Dan Yunduo kneels before the princess and introduces herself with all due respect. Soon after, she goes to the imprisoned princess and presents her plan for the current situation. The narration explains that the next morning, the people voluntarily went to look for survivors. One of the civilians finds her alive in the rubble and desperately shouts for help to save her. The medics treat the wounded, and someone comments that her family seems to have a high survival rate. A doctor speculates that one of the hero's cores fell nearby and perhaps that protected the survivors. The princess narrates that after the massacre, Dan Yunduo found only the necklace she had given him as a gift. With a wounded face and eyes full of tears, the girl refused to accept what had happened. She clung to the hope that since his body was not found, perhaps he was still alive. Thus, the young woman became one of the few who did not believe the news of the hero's fall. Before her parents, Dan Yunduo reveals that she read about a demon who split his core to escape. From there, she kneels and begs them to let her go after her great love. Crying, the girl shouts that she is his wife and that even if it's just a body, she needs to bring him back. The princess explains that she hasn't seen the young woman for 4 years and that she infiltrated human territory. Alone, she used the human intelligence network to gather any clues about his whereabouts. The princess says that the cores followed his subconscious and went to the most important places. She remembers that the stronger the demonic core, the harder it is to refine it and absorb its power. Because of this, even the greatest experts of the demon race could perish while trying their luck. The princess recalls that when Dan Yunduo left, she was just a commoner with no combat power whatsoever. With that, everyone wonders what exactly happened to the girl for her to become so strong. The young princess is shocked, questioning everything Dan Yunduo went through during those years. With a serious look, Dan Yunduo reveals that before he left, her beloved left a demonic core for her. The pig-faced king and his dog are completely shocked by the woman's revelation. With that, the kings invite her in and ask for a demonic display paper to be brought. A note explains that demons write by injecting power into the paper and are much faster than humans. Outside, the people point to the sky in shock as the council meeting is being broadcast. Inside the council hall, several members are seated for the meeting. The crowd wonders why they are holding a live meeting at a time of crisis like this. From there, one of the demons holds a magic mirror that broadcasts the meeting for everyone to see. One of the kings explains that the situation is urgent and therefore the meeting needs to be held nationwide. With that, Dan Yunduo apologizes for being covered, but her identity cannot be exposed to the humans. One of the kings gets annoyed and tells her to hurry up and say what her plan is to save the demon race. She reveals that her plan is simple and that in 15 minutes, she will crash the continent into the human capital. Thus, the 4 great cities and the demonic power will shatter their continental plate. With that, the entire demon race will be wiped out, but 80% of the human capital will also fall. Faced with the situation, the people are terrified by the plan and wonder if the woman in red has gone mad. The crowd is outraged and complains that the live broadcast was just to hear that crazy talk. While the people freak out, the council members begin to discuss the woman's unexpected proposal. One of the kings calmly lights a cigarette while his chicken-faced colleague's jaw drops. At the same time, the other council members also begin to debate her insane idea. Suddenly, one of them slams his fist on the table and shouts that it's the biggest load of nonsense he's ever heard. The Chicken King freaks out and starts cursing the young woman, but his friend holds him back so he doesn't lose his head. But to everyone's surprise, the purple-haired king calmly says that her proposal is very good. He understands immediately that the idea is to threaten the humans with mutual destruction to make them retreat. Dan Yunduo praises the kings for understanding politics, and he thanks her for the compliment with a smile. Outside, the people stop fleeing and are confused upon hearing about possible peace negotiations. The king explains that they have already tried to communicate with the dragon, but it doesn't respond at all. The giant creature doesn't even look at them, let alone obey any orders they give. With that, Dan Yunduo says that is exactly why she called that meeting. She reveals that the celestial dragon was formed from her beloved's core and only obeys him. Thus, she who possesses his core can theoretically give orders to the giant creature. The crowd is shocked as Dan Yunduo reveals she can only use 30% of the core's power. She continues, saying that this isn't enough, and that she needs the council's approval for her proposal. Her plan is to use the royal power to temporarily gather the energy of the entire demon race into her body. That way, with everyone's power combined, she believes she can finally command the celestial dragon. Thus, she warns that after the impact, 80% of the human population will simply disappear. Because of this, Dan Yunduo asks the council to leave the hard part to her and just focus on the plan. But the people don't like the idea, and a demon shouts that she is gambling with the future of their entire race. Calmly, the woman agrees and admits that it is a gamble, and that she is only 70% certain. From there, she asks if they would rather risk it with her, or have a 100% chance of falling to the humans. Faced with the situation, the crowd falls silent, completely terrified and unsure of what to choose. Suddenly, one of the demons raises his fist and shouts that the idea works, and that they should fight the humans. Immediately after, the crowd agrees and says that since they are going down anyway, it's better to take the humans with them. A memory shows the demons being attacked, and they shout that they are tired of being pushed around. With that, the soldiers bow before the woman's image and say they will listen to her and follow her orders. The dragon roars, and the crowd shouts that they are willing to lend their power to fight against the humans. The announcer also gets excited and shouts to fight, but gets scolded for not having the right to speak. The purple-haired king finds the plan interesting and says he hasn't heard something so bold since Lin Potion's demise. With that, he tells the announcer to start the vote, and the young man agrees immediately without question. Immediately after, the announcer bangs the gavel and asks those against the proposal to raise their hands. To general surprise, a single hand is raised, and the people are shocked, not understanding what happened. The announcer can't believe it and reports that the vote result was 699-1. With the majority of votes against it, he announces that the current bill was not approved by the council. Dan Yunduo is in shock, as she did not expect the entire council to be against her attack plan. The announcer repeats the result, stammering, and confirms once again that the plan was rejected by everyone. The crowd revolts and complains that if they don't bet on this, they will just wait for their end to come. She faces the council and asks if her plan was not clear, as they had no reason to refuse the proposal. The king replies that the plan was very good and that she is a genius for thinking of something like that in their situation. However, he looks at her and asks what the extinction of the demon race has to do with the councilors. He reveals that the nobles can pay war reparations and even gain the status of honorary humans. With that, he insults the crowd, saying they are not even valuable enough to become fertilizer, and the people are shocked. The king continues, saying that their conditions bind them forever to the demon race. Because they have no choice, their thinking will always be to protect and defend their race. With that, the king says that the poor love their nation, but the rich choose the nation that suits them. She questions why the nobles would risk a 30% chance of falling for the sake of the commoners. The council members agree because 30% is a very high risk for them to take. The purple-haired king says with a smile that their mortality rate will always be 0%. He scoffs, saying that some fighters think they can influence the world with their ideas. The other members complain that the rich pay for the wars, and now another lunatic like Lin Potion has emerged. The king says she is naive for thinking she can establish herself in the council with just a good strategy. From there he insults her, saying she is as reckless as her late fiancé was. He explains that Lin Potion's end was already decided when he became strong and wanted to restore the race. The king tells her not to blame them, because it was the entire noble class of the demon race that eliminated him. He reveals that even if the 7 had not acted, other nobles would have made him disappear sooner or later. With a look of pity, the king says he will give some advice to the poor commoner widow before him. He looks at her with a serious expression and tells her to use her brain when proposing plans in that room. He says that room, on a certain level, is more frightening than the human army. Thus, he questions if she doesn't happen to have any other plan. He tells the counselors to accept reality, because giving half of their assets to the humans will be necessary. The broadcast of the meeting ends, and the screen turns off, leaving the people completely shocked. The people despair as the nobles can pay to survive and realize that Lord Lin was betrayed. Suddenly, a massive explosion interrupts the crowd's despair, startling everyone. The explosion hits the city wall and blows a giant hole in the middle of the structure. One of the demons shouts that the wall has been breached and tells everyone to flee, because the humans are coming. Immediately after, the human soldiers invade the city and begin to attack the civilians without mercy. The massacre begins, and several demons are eliminated by the relentlessly advancing soldiers. The demons flee in desperation while the soldiers fire energy blasts, and someone screams for help. But in the midst of all the chaos, Dan Yunduo tells everyone to wait a moment. She faces the counselors and warns that the meeting is not over because she has a new plan. With that, she takes off her hat and asks seriously if they want to hear her new proposal. The council members are surprised and wonder if she really still has a new plan. One of the kings tells her to state the plan quickly and hopes it's not another proposal that won't pass. The young woman says she didn't want things to come to this, but a king cuts her off and tells her to begin. With that, she announces that the first point of the plan is for the government to pardon her for the crime of murder. The kings mock her for wanting to use the council's power to get rid of her past crimes. The second point is that the entire demon race must cooperate with her action at no cost. The Pig King is confused by the proposal and asks what the heck she intends to do with that. From there, she reveals that the third point is to confiscate half of the counselors' assets for reconstruction. Faced with the situation, one of the kings freaks out and shouts that he has tolerated enough of her nonsense for one day. The other kings get angry and shout for her to drop dead, because she is just wasting everyone's time. As they advance furiously to attack her, Dan Yunduo simply says that was all. Immediately after, she faces them all with a cold look and asks anyone who is against it to raise their hand. The young woman faces the kings with a determined look, waiting for their reaction to the new vote. With a slight smile on her face, she notices that this time, no one dared to raise their hand. Thus, the woman tells the announcer to read the voting results and begin the operation. She holds the paper showing the unanimous result of 0 to 700 votes in favor of the plan. With an icy glare, Dan Yunduo faces the kings, showing she is not messing around. From there, the plan is approved unanimously while the counselors fall wounded to the ground. The purple-haired king gets up with difficulty and stares at the woman, not believing what happened. She praises him for being a great counselor and says his power is impressive for having survived. With that, the young woman remembers that it was he who said that room was more terrible than the humans. The girl holds him by the chin and says she supposes so, because the humans won't finish him off. Completely terrified, the king begs for his life, his face covered in tears and blood. With her eyes glowing frighteningly, Dan Yunduo replies that she will spare him for now. But suddenly, the woman grabs him by the neck and lifts him into the air while he screams in pain. The king curses her and shouts that even if she saves the race, he is still the #1 noble of all. He threatens her, saying that if she eliminates him, the entire noble class will become her enemy. The king continues to shout that the law will pursue her, and that everyone will hate her forever. The young woman tightens her grip on the man's neck, who screams in agony, unable to break free. Desperate, he apologizes and says he doesn't care that she's a widow, trying to save himself. Dan Yunduo stares at him without showing any emotion at the counselor's pathetic words. Desperate, the king offers to make her his consort and begs her to spare his life. With a cold look, Dan Yunduo warns that her beloved is not gone and that in the next life, he will remember. She holds his face tightly and tells the counselor never to call her a widow again. Immediately after, the woman squeezes with all her strength and ends the traitorous king's life once and for all. Facing the counselors' bodies, she tells herself that she knows her beloved is not really gone. With a determined look, she swears that when he returns, she will deliver the entire demon race to him, intact. From there, the young woman shouts with all her might, calling for the little celestial dragon. The giant dragon responds to its new master's call, its eyes glowing intensely. With that, the creature advances, and a note informs that the rule against eliminating kings was changed that day. The demon race used the threat of mutual destruction, but the humans thought it was just a bluff. It was only when the dragon got close to the capital that they agreed to peace negotiations. Thus, the two races finally entered a brief and fragile period of peace. Back in the present, our protagonist clutches his head, feeling an unbearable pain. A montage shows Shiarui taking care of him over the years as his illness worsened. On the table, a hand touches an ancient book, and Lin Potion's demonic core appears cracked. In the year 3775, our protagonist stares at the core with a smile. The boy asks if that is Lin Potion's core, and his mother confirms his suspicion. With a smile, the woman remembers that the former hero fell in battle because of her. From there, she reveals that one of his cores fell nearby, and she kept it a secret. Shiarui says that it is the strongest core in 10,000 years, and that she kept it for research. The woman explains that she didn't give it to him before, because the power was so strong it would completely engulf him. But now that he has consumed several other cores, his body can surely handle the power. With that, she guarantees that with the core's power, his illness will be cured very quickly. Furthermore, Shiarui reveals that it is his head core and may contain his memories. Thus, she says that his past life case may have clues stored within it. The young man might even remember who his true enemy from his past life was. Faced with the situation, the woman simply tells the boy to take the core and use it. After thinking for a moment, our protagonist extends his hand to finally take the core. But suddenly, an urgent news report on TV catches the attention of both of them right at that moment. The anchor reports that the last city of the demon race has surrendered to humanity again. The anchor shouts that the chance to invade the last refuge of the demons has arrived, and our protagonist is shocked by the news. With that, the woman complains about the noise and turns off the television with the remote control, not caring. Immediately after, Shiarui turns to the young man and tells him to eat the core quickly. Our protagonist stares at the purple core in his hands with a determined and slightly hesitant look. Without a second thought, the young man brings a piece of the glowing core to his mouth. From there, he feels the power of the core spreading throughout his body all at once. Seeing the boy's reaction, Shiarui asks if his body feels better and if he has remembered anything. At that moment, our protagonist's eyes widen as it seems he has remembered something. He stares at the woman in complete silence while she observes him with a surprised expression on her face. With his hand on his head and his mind confused, the young man can't say anything but a single word, but to his mother's surprise, the boy scratches his head and says it seems there's nothing there. He continues the joke and wonders if the fever didn't break his brain, leaving the woman terrified. Shiarui questions if the former hero didn't store his memories in other demonic cores. He complains that she should have sold the core before, and the woman gets annoyed because she kept it for his illness. The woman says she still has things to do and hands him a jar of sugar water, and he thanks her. With that, the woman warns that the energy consumption will be enormous and tells him to rest early before leaving. Alone in his room, our protagonist writes in his diary that he has consumed Lin Potion's core. Right after writing a little, he picks up the jar with the sugar water his mother gave him. Suddenly, a happy memory emerges, showing him and Shiarui taking a nap on the grass. Other memories appear with him in the laboratory, and the terrible image of his parents being captured. The memories mix in a whirlwind of happy and painful images from his two lives. A clear memory emerges with Shiarui defeating him, and he recalls that he wanted to restore his race. With the revelation, the young man shatters the jar of sugar water in a fit of pure fury and pain. With tears in his eyes, he screams that his enemy is the woman he calls Mom. Shiarui. Out of control, our protagonist writes in his diary with such force that his hand begins to bleed. Unable to bear the pain and the mix of memories, the young man falls to the floor in complete agony. He realizes that by remembering the past, the core from his previous life is rejecting his body. The pain is so intense that the young man ends up fainting on the cold floor of the room, helpless. Worried, Shiarui opens the door and panics upon finding her son collapsed, calling out to him. The woman is completely confused and wonders why his illness hasn't been cured yet. The woman approaches the table and finds the blood-stained diary on the floor near the young man. With that, she picks up the notebook and opens it, beginning to read the pages with an expression of pure shock. Seeing the torn pages and her name written in blood, she is terrified by the terrible discovery. A day later, the two are lying in bed, and Shiarui stares at the ceiling with her eyes wide open. But our protagonist was actually faking it and slowly opens his eyes to check the situation. Seeing that she doesn't move, he concludes that the woman has finally fallen asleep, and he can now start to act. The young man thinks that his injuries are much better, and that he can control himself, if he doesn't let his emotions get the best of him. From there, he sits on top of the woman with a rope and says he can't wait another day to eliminate her. But it is revealed that sleeping with her eyes open is a habit of hers, and that the rope is her own demon's sealing weapon. He grits his teeth because he knows that at this stage, it's impossible to defeat her head-on, and only a sneak attack would work. With his eyes glowing with hatred, our protagonist pulls the rope with all his might, screaming for her to go to heck. However, the boy is completely surprised because the rope doesn't move even an inch. Suddenly, a protective talisman appears on Shirui's chest and begins to glow with a golden light. He realizes that the item completely nullifies a certain amount of external force, even in an unconscious state. With that, the young man reflects that the conflict between the human and demon races has been growing a lot lately. The woman suddenly wakes up because she sensed the danger, and the world is not a peaceful place for her. Giving up for now, our protagonist turns away and thinks that he will find another chance. The two go back to lying in bed as if nothing had happened that dark night. With his eyes closed, the young man pretends to be asleep so as not to arouse any suspicion. A heavy silence fills the room as the boy plans his next move. With tears in her eyes, Shioroi stares at the ceiling, shocked by her son's attempt. Years later, a newspaper reports that the war between the races has started again, and a boy sells the news. In a restaurant, people are having fun eating hot pot and ignoring the bad news of the world. Two guys start fighting over the food, and one of them complains that the other took all the flower demon meat. With a smile, the young man pours a special sauce on the meat, showing the right way to eat the dish. Then, he eats it all in one go, and his friend jokes that he must be a demon in disguise. The hot pot has two sides, one spicy and one mild, to please all tastes. Suddenly, our protagonist says with a serious look that the white soup is all his. Someone takes some food from the red soup, which seems to be very spicy. The woman says the red soup is his, but the people around curse them for being of the demon race. With that, Shioroi explains that our protagonist is different because he has liked to eat spicy food since he was little. The restaurant owner recognizes them and with a smile, announces a big promotion for loyal customers. From there, the woman informs Grandma Tian that they might be moving to another province, leaving the old lady in shock. The old lady asks the reason for the sudden departure, and if it has to do with the boy's school, since his grades are good. With a serious look, our protagonist says there are many reasons for the move, but one of them is the most important. Thus, Shioroi reveals that their province might really go to war with the demon race this time. The restaurant owner is confused, because she remembers they signed a peace treaty with the demons many years ago. But the leader of the province, Kyun Ming, one of the 12 disaster stars, is expanding the army for the end of the demon race. The woman explains that a new vein of immortal ore was found, and the province's fighting power has increased greatly. Furthermore, next month, the celestial dragon continent will float over the province, and she advises the old lady to leave. But Grandma Tian refuses to leave and says that the rumor of a second war has appeared more than 20 times in 7 years. She says she can't move every time, and Shioroi warns that it's just her intuition with a 60% chance of happening. Suddenly, the woman asks for the membership card, and the owner wonders why she wants to sign up if she's already leaving. With a nostalgic look, she says she still remembers when they first arrived there on her son's birthday. In a memory, she recalls that the old lady was the only one who didn't look down on them for wearing dirty and torn clothes. The woman recalls that their portion was half as large as the other tables, and that she noticed even without the old lady saying so. With that, she says her memory is bad and that with the card in her purse, she won't forget Grandma Tian at all. With no way to refuse, the old lady accepts because Shioroi threatens to sue her for false advertising if she doesn't. A cookbook reveals that humans like spicy food while the demon race prefers sugar in their dishes. From there, the restaurant owner says goodbye and says she will return to her daily chores. Our protagonist reflects that Shioroi's intuition about the war is correct, even if her brain isn't normal. Sarcastically, he wonders if he should praise her for being the person who could end him at any moment. He decides that he needs to speed up his plans because the demon officials cannot protect their race alone. With that, he resolves that he needs to return to the demon territory soon, but before that, he has something to do. With his eyes glowing red, he mentally swears that he will finish her off first before leaving. The boy calls her mom, and says he thinks he has reached the right age for something very important. With a serious look, he asks the woman to teach him how to use her magical treasures as soon as possible. An image shows the sealing rope that the woman uses to protect herself while she sleeps at night, and to her surprise, he also asks her to teach him the method of breaking the magical treasures. The woman is silent for a moment, and a slight smile appears on her face at the boy's request. To the young man's surprise, Shioroi stares at the table and simply agrees to his request. From there, the two are silent for a while as the hot pot continues to boil. With a slightly scary smile, the woman says she will teach him the next day without any problems. The scene cuts to Kunming, the leader of the Province of Light, who seems very friendly and receptive. In his hands, he holds a golden magic mirror that shines with a very intense light. Furthermore, the man also holds a blue energy chain as if it were a leash. With his golden halo on his head, he looks like a divine and quite imposing figure. Inside the prison palace in the administrative center of the Province of Light, an important meeting is taking place. With a demon girl on a leash, Kunming asks about the situation while eating ice cream. An official replies that the province has discovered immortal ore and the demon's situation is dire. He recalls that the woman in red who commanded the dragon saved the race and won the hearts of the people. But the Vermilion Bird General explains that with peace, the woman's prestige among the people has disappeared. With a scary smile, he reveals that the idea of no more war between the races has spread. Because of this, the number of demons in the army has dropped, and the quality of the soldiers has worsened greatly. Thus, the spies concluded that the combat power of the demon race is the weakest it has been in the last 5 years. Suddenly, the White Tiger General, the third general of the province, suggests waiting a few more years. He proposes waiting for the demon race to become even weaker before finally attacking them. With a smile, Kunurho, the emperor's second son, asks what his uncle is thinking. Sitting on a giant fox, he explains that it's not just the demons who have become complacent with peace. The young man reveals that the shadow of near ruin from 10 years ago is receding from humanity. The proportion of soldiers and civilians who want war has dropped from 99% to 78%. Because of this, Kunurho says that the pro-war faction alone is not enough to start the battle. Just as they did with Lin Potion, he suggests gathering the military power of all human provinces. With a determined look, he states that they need to at least integrate all the power of their province. The emperor says that his compatriots are being deceived by the demons, and that a second Lin Potion could emerge. Thus, one of the officials says that humans need a fierce fire to awaken their hatred. With a dark look, the emperor says that he himself will light this fierce fire in humanity. From there, he tells his son to make military preparations, and the young man agrees with a smile. The emperor guarantees that he will handle the integration of humanity, and the demon girl despairs. In the middle of the hall, Kunurho kneels before his father and agrees to follow his orders. One of the generals sadistically asks if Her Majesty the Queen thinks her behind is soft. With that, the pink-haired girl shouts that it is the softest of all while begging for her life. But the man uses his phantom light and crushes the queen with a powerful and devastating blow. The queen mother watches the scene, while a masked official and his followers watch in silence. Then, the emperor uses a magic mirror and performs a type of ritual over the bodies. The scene cuts to a memorial plaque showing the name of someone named Kun Babao. Kunming stares at the plaque and laments the loss of his beloved eldest son, Kun Baobao. He recalls that 5 years ago, his 17-year-old son was eliminated by demon slaves. Because of this, his hatred for the demon race goes far beyond patriotism and is something very personal. With tears in his eyes, the emperor swears he will get revenge for the loss of his dear son. One of the generals complains that the human emperor was a coward and accepted the demon's demands. The general says that Kunming suffered a lot for humanity, and the emperor cries out for his good son. It is revealed that every day he names a demoness as queen and eliminates her to be buried with his son. An official explains that the status of queen is the second most noble and that, including today, that was exactly the 1,800th queen he had eliminated. With a roar of fury, the emperor says that it is not enough to avenge his son. A month later, the gigantic celestial dragon floats over the province, preparing for war. The creature carries on its back the last refuge of the demon race, the celestial dragon continent. Back at the restaurant, Xia Rui faces her son, who asks her to teach him how to use the magical treasures. With a serious look, the boy also asks the woman to teach him the method of breaking the treasures. Faced with her son's unexpected request, the woman simply agrees without asking any questions. From there, she says she will teach him the next day, and the two go back to eating peacefully. The next day, our protagonist makes a hand sign and shouts to release the treasure's power. With that, a small box opens and releases a purple smoke that spreads throughout the area. The woman observes the training and wonders if he inherited her genes, or if their powers are similar. Suddenly, a hamster that was on its wheel gets scared by the purple energy approaching it. Immediately after, the energy hits the little animal head on and knocks it on its back. But our protagonist doesn't give up and celebrates, because this time his spell finally worked. With a touch on the box's lid, he manages to control the energy and reverse the treasure's effect. To everyone's surprise, the hamster gets up and helps its little friend who had fainted before. Our protagonist narrates that he quickly mastered the basic methods for controlling and breaking the magical treasures. Later, he used the method the woman taught him to test on her body while she slept. Upon touching her, her body protection curse really weakened a bit with his touch. The young man thinks that fortunately, defensive runes are not Shiarui's specialty, and that he needs 2 more weeks. Lying next to her, the boy swears that when the time comes, she will already be a casualty on his path. With a cold look, he tells himself that she will be finished when he manages to break her protection. From that night on, Shiarui began to speak much less, and her accident rate in experiments increased greatly. Sometimes while cleaning the house, the woman would suddenly start staring into space, completely lost. In her hands, she held a pair of baby shoes with a blank and very distant expression. The frequency with which she went out to hunt for demonic cores also increased, and she would be gone for longer periods. The young man questions why he didn't notice any of that at the time and watches her leave from a distance. With a quick gesture, the boy releases his power and manages to break a talisman with a protective barrier. He is satisfied because now he can dissipate most of the protection without much effort, but he knows that it is just a disposable talisman, and that to break the real one, he will need external help. With the power of his old core, he is sure it is enough to attack her by surprise while she sleeps. But the young man knows that humans with combat experience are extremely alert to the flow of demonic power. Thus, he is sure that Shiaru will wake up the moment he activates his demonic power. Because of this, our protagonist decides he needs to use a power that belongs to a human, a magical treasure. Seizing the moment, he tells his mother that he wants a magical treasure just for himself, and the woman gets excited. The boy complains that there are many fakes on the market and asks if she knows any reliable sources. The woman agrees and explains that a magical treasure's compatibility cannot be transferred to another person. With that, she says it's time to find a magical treasure suitable for her son's abilities. Completely excited, the woman celebrates that her little Tian will finally have his own magical treasure. Our protagonist thinks that he didn't want to ask her for help, but she is the only reliable demon sealer he knows. Thus, the two go to a dark place called Black Swamp Corner in search of the perfect item. He complains that she didn't need to bring him personally, but the woman replies that she couldn't do that at all. With a smile, the woman explains that her magical treasure was also personally chosen by her parents. The young man reflects that making her choose the weapon that will eliminate her is crossing the line, but that it counts as a warning. From there, the two arrive at a shop called Sister Cho's Magical Treasures to finally find the item. Inside, the woman asks if anyone is there while a girl with cat ears rests peacefully on a bench. Lying on a bench, the shop owner plays mahjong and notices there's a new customer in the house. She's in the middle of a very intense game with some strange creatures and seems super focused. With a lollipop in her mouth, the woman named Cho stares at them without showing much interest in their visit. From there, she tells them to come back the next day, because the shop is already closed to the public. Sarcastically, the young woman warns that if they don't leave soon, they'll have to spend the night there with her. But suddenly, the shop owner turns around surprised, as it seems she recognized the woman with the boy. Shiarui shouts the young woman's name, calling her little Acho, and runs towards her all excited. With that, the shop owner jumps in surprise and shouts little Shiarui's name, not believing what she's seeing. Thus, the two hug tightly, and our protagonist realizes they already knew each other. Aicho asks if the boy is her precious treasure, and the woman confirms that he is old enough for an item. The shop owner approaches and compliments the young man's beauty, saying he is there to unearth the treasure. Shiarui says she is a regular customer and will leave her son there with her while she takes a walk around the city. The woman sighs and says that looking at him reminds her of when little Shiarui first came to the shop. With a smile, she calls him closer and says that Auntie will choose a special treasure just for him. Then, the woman goes to a wall full of drawers and opens one of them to start the search for the item. The woman shows a flame bracelet made with immortal ore from the Red Fusion Island. She explains that the item converts spiritual power into fire and puts it on our protagonist's wrist. With that, the shop owner asks him to try to hit her, but the boy asks if it won't hurt her. From there, our protagonist prepares for the attack, his fist covered in the item's flames. He attacks, but the fireball hits the floor and burns the wood without even getting close to her. Our protagonist is surprised and confused because the attack didn't go in the direction he intended. Ah Cho says the treasure doesn't suit him because the spiritual power didn't follow his will. The boy apologizes embarrassed, and she says it's okay because the shop's floor wasn't worth much. Without wasting time, the woman grabs another mysterious box from the shop's wall of drawers. She reveals a blue thunder bell made of immortal ore that can summon the power of lightning. He thinks about the ranks of immortal ore and realizes that this is already a pretty decent treasure. Upon ringing the bell, a gigantic lightning bolt falls from the ceiling and hits the floor with absurd force. With that, he apologizes again and says it seems that one doesn't work for him either. The woman calls him little baby and asks him to come a little closer to her to continue. With a smile on her face and a determined look, Acho seems to have finally had a good idea. With a quick gesture, Acho ruffles our protagonist's hair with her hand. She touches the lollipop to his forehead and says she's not going to play with the young man anymore. Soon after, the woman goes back to licking her lollipop with a very different look. The shop owner stares at him with a mysterious and slightly scary smile on her face. With a sinister chuckle, she seems to have found the perfect solution for the boy. From there, the woman starts to laugh manically while squeezing her little creature. She runs around the shop laughing, and her strange creatures follow her in a chaotic mess. Suddenly, she stops and shows a short blade forged with local immortal ore. The young woman says the blacksmith raised the price, claiming the handle material had run out. Because of this, the customer cut off his arm to make the handle, and the blade hasn't sold in 10 years. But she guarantees the quality is top-notch and tells him to try the cursed weapon. Hesitantly, our protagonist holds the blade, which seems to bend in his hand. At that moment, a red energy starts to emanate from the weapon and runs up the boy's arm. The young man's eyes widen in complete shock at the sensation of that power. An image of his past life emerges, and he feels a deep connection with the dark blade. Acho says that from his expression, they have found the right direction, and our protagonist agrees that swords feel familiar. With that, he mentally confirms that the type of weapon is correct. But it seems something is still missing. The young man thinks with a serious look that a magical treasure of that level is not enough to take out Xiarui. Meanwhile, the shop owner sends a message to little Xiarui without him noticing anything. She turns and confirms to our protagonist that his true talent lies in blade-type treasures. Sincerely, the boy says he feels that treasure is not very powerful, and the young woman is a little surprised. From there, he points upwards and asks if he can try the sword hanging high above everyone. The black sword with red details glows intensely, and Acho seems a bit hesitant with the choice. Sitting with her pet, the woman says he still doesn't understand much about magical treasures. He replies that in his current memories, she didn't teach him and explains that high-level items amplify power. The young man continues the explanation, saying that other factors affected treasure's power release. With a smile, the shop owner reveals to the boy that they call this factor the compatibility value. Our protagonist is confused by the term, and Acho says she will explain it with a very simple formula. The young woman explains that the item's rank multiplied by compatibility and spiritual power gives the final effect. Thus, he understands that every detail has a great influence on the result, and she confirms that he is right. Our protagonist asks if the more he uses the weapon, the greater the compatibility will be, and the young woman confirms, with a lollipop in her mouth. Acho says she will go back to talking about that sword from before. She explains that the higher the treasure's rank, the more complex its circuits are, and the longer it takes to increase compatibility. The woman says the weapon in his hand has simple circuits, so the compatibility between them will increase very quickly. Although the quality is not as high, the weapon will make him much stronger in a short time. Thus, she guarantees that this is the treasure that will make him strong in the shortest possible time, and he understands. Suddenly, Acho reveals that her shop specializes in selling apprentice magical treasures. Because of this, the sword he wanted is just a sample, and if he wants the original, he needs to go to another shop. She says that at that level, even his mother would have to work for years and take out loans to buy the item. The young man realizes he could never afford that, and the woman says it's an item worth a lifetime. The young woman reveals that the last batch was all sold to the children of noble families for them to train with. With a sad look, the boy realizes it's not something families like his can have. Suddenly, the shop owner announces that his mother is back, and the young man turns around, very surprised. With tears in his eyes, he starts to cry and calls himself an idiot in his thoughts. In one frame, Sharu appears happy, holding the expensive sword he wanted and a bag of food. The scene cuts to the capital of the province of Light, where the crowd celebrates, and a family is proud of their son. But in contrast, a demon settlement lives in a valley of trash and sewage in the middle of nowhere. A streamer appears and says that at his followers' request, he came to the demon race's settlement. On the live stream, he asks the crowd to follow him to see what happens in a place humans don't dare to visit. With that, the young man finds a pot with some kind of food cooking over a makeshift fire. He explains that demons boil bones that humans throw away with moss to eat again. The little demon nearby thinks that he doesn't understand it, because the food is full of bacteria and has no nutrients. With a wicked smile, the streamer kicks the pot and says he did it for the demon boy's health. Then, he shows the demon's residences while the little boy tries to pick up the food from the ground. Sarcastically, he says the pipes are warm in the winter and cool in the summer, with good ventilation. The young man shines a light into one of the pipes and finds a demon girl sleeping but complains about the lack of privacy. The live stream viewers go crazy over the scene and ask him to show more of that place. Suddenly, the streamer complains that the demonic aura there is so strong that the live stream signal will drop in 5 minutes. With that, he ends the broadcast and taunts the demons who are hiding in fear in the pipes. After everything, the streamer says goodbye to his followers with a smile and ends the live stream. With that, the streamer gets punched so hard that he flies away with no chance to defend himself from the attack. Immediately after, a demon grabs him and says the cleanup is complete while throwing the young man's body into the sewer. The little demon boy remains on the ground, trying to pick up the food scraps that the streamer dropped earlier. Suddenly, the boy looks to the side and calls out for His Majesty, surprising the guard who was there. A hand holds a bowl of food and asks the boy if that was what he was eating. From there, Empress Qmiao and the Empress Dowager Baidishi appear, staring at the boy. With a smile, the boy recognizes the Empress and asks if she has inherited the throne yet because he saw her on the live stream. Completely excited, he shouts for everyone to come out, because the Empress has come to visit them personally. A demon who is cooking over a fire turns around shocked, and wonders if it's really the Empress there. Thus, several other demons begin to emerge from the sewer pipes, shouting the Empress's name. A wounded demon runs crying, and says it's really her because he recognized her from the wedding newspaper photo. In this way, a crowd of demons gathers before the royal family, moved by the unexpected visit. Far away, Kunming observes the whole scene through a magic mirror with a very satisfied look. One of his officials confirms that their intelligence was correct, while the emperor holds the mirror. The official explains that whenever the continent floats over a province, the princess visits the settlements. Kunming says mockingly that they don't know he has the Sealing King's 9-turn reincarnation mirror. With the mirror, he can monitor any place in the province and observes the demon empress's visit. An official praises him for having infiltrated and says that the position of Chief of the 12 Stars should be his. But Kunming tells him to stop the small talk and prepare all the relevant personnel for the mission. Before his throne, the emperor announces grimly that their plan is about to begin. Meanwhile, Empress Qmiao is shocked by the misery and says she has never seen anything like it. A demon boy explains, crying that they have many expenses and cannot afford anything. Another demon reveals that a glass of water costs 50 in taxes and food is even more expensive. With that, the Empress despairs as she realizes that this is pushing her people to their end. The boy continues, saying that from time to time, officials from the royal palace bring food for the children. However, another demon reveals that in exchange, they take the girls with a human-like appearance for a while. The Empress shouts furiously that the peace treaty does not allow them to do such a thing, but a demon boy revolts and shouts back, asking what is the use of that treaty. The crowd becomes enraged and shouts that while the nobles live well, they are starving and freezing down there. Immediately after, someone throws something at the Empress and shouts that her visit is completely useless. One of the guards protects the Empress Dowager Baidishi and curses one of the demons in the crowd. The people continue to throw things at Empress Qmiao and shout for her to leave. With her head down, the young Empress stares at the dirty ground without showing any reaction. A desperate father scolds his son for shouting instead of finding food for his dying sister. He begs the crowd for some food, saying that this is his last living daughter. With tears in his eyes, the man continues to plead for someone to please save the little girl. Seeing the scene, Qmiao asks the guards if they still have food, but the answer is no. Her guards explain that they came in secret and could not bring much for the visit. One of the demons tells the father to accept his fate, because things like this happen every day there. Without hesitation, the young Empress begins to walk towards the man and his daughter. The father gets angry and shouts, asking if she came just to watch their horror show. With a serious look, Qmiao continues to stare at the scene without saying a single word. The people are shocked by the young woman's attitude, and the Empress Dowager calls her by name. From there, the young woman carefully takes the starving little girl into her arms. Immediately after, a bright light appears and the little girl slowly opens her eyes. With the little girl in his arms, the father is shocked and stammers the Empress's name, not believing it. The little girl's brother is also completely speechless at the scene he just witnessed. With tears in her eyes, Qmiao remembers her father saying that the royal family was the master of the commoners. She explains that the word master does not mean using power to take away the people's benefits. With a choked voice, The young woman says the meaning is to treat every demon as her most precious treasure. From there, the Empress apologizes to everyone and says that everything is her fault due to her incompetence. She shouts that it was her failure that did not allow her people to live and work in complete peace. But the young woman guarantees that she has formed an alliance and that the pro-war faction is recovering. Furthermore, the woman in Red's military school is training a new generation of strong warriors. With a determined look, the Empress swears she will fulfill her father's wish to restore the race. In response to the speech, one of the demons gets excited and shouts with all his might that he supports the Empress. With that, the crowd raises their fists and shouts that their race can indeed rise again and fight. In the Empress's arms, the little girl now has bright eyes and a smile on her face. A demon boy points excitedly and tells everyone to see how much the girl's appearance has improved. The people smile and say that demon children recover their energy quickly and praise the Empress's magic. From there, the demon people begin to applaud and rejoice at the young Empress's words. The Empress Dowager Baidi Shi calls her by name and reflects that in the current situation, being Empress is a burden. She thinks that the royal family has lost power and that what little remains is thanks to Dan Yundua's strength. Furthermore, the Empress Dowager laments that every day the young woman has to deal with various influential officials. The woman recalls that the nobles only want her family's power and plan arranged marriages. One of the nobles even dreams of having several children so that his descendants can become royalty. But Q Miao Miao's talent for governing has already been approved by several old and experienced ministers. And she is also a monarch willing to sacrifice herself for her people without a second thought. With a smile, the Empress Dowager says that Q Miao Miao can certainly restore the demon race. Far away, an official tells Qin that the time to finish off the demons has come, and he asks about the talismans. In a frozen province, two humans look up at the sky, preparing for the broadcast that is about to begin. The official confirms that it is connected, and a large screen shows the scene of the Empress to the entire ice province. The broadcast also reaches the Fifth Strength province, where giant hand statues rise. In the Blade province, the people also watch the scene of the Empress with her people on a large screen. Suddenly, a blue jellyfish floats in the dark, and when touched by a finger, it glows in an orange hue. From there, the demon people release several glowing jellyfish that float through the sky like lanterns. With the little girl in her arms, Q Miao Miao and her people watch the scene, mesmerized by the beauty of the lights. The valley fills with light and joy as the crowd celebrates the Empress's visit with a grand festival. After a while, the young woman says she needs to go back and faces the little girl's father with a smile. She explains that staying in enemy territory is risky and promises to find a way to send supplies. With that, the Empress prepares to return the child to her father and asks him to raise her well. But suddenly, the father's and the Empress's faces are filled with pure shock and terror at something unexpected. The man holds his daughter's body, which is now lifeless and completely pale, in his arms. Far away, Kunming reveals his plan to show everyone the true face of the demon Empress. With his power, he controls her like a puppet, forcing the young woman to do whatever he wants. Thus, the Empress is forced to attack the little girl in her arms against her will. Seeing the scene, the Empress Dowager Baidishi screams her daughter's name, completely horrified. Q Miao Miao also screams desperately for her mother because she cannot control her own body. One of the guards draws his shining sword to try to prevent the tragedy, but it is too late. Meanwhile, in Little Tian's house, a purple curved blade is surrounded by a powerful fire energy. Our protagonist reflects that, as the shop owner said, the apprentice weapon will make him stronger quickly. Thus, he practices with the magical treasure to increase his combat power as quickly as possible. With this new power, he is sure he can completely break her body protection talisman. Gritting his teeth with hatred, he curses her mentally as his revenge gets closer and closer. But a memory of Xia Rui arriving happily with the expensive sword confuses him about her attitude. Kneeling in the living room, the young man admits that she is a good mother but wonders if that really matters now. Crying, he shouts that his mother from his past life never even had the chance to be a real mother to him. The young man reveals that he bought the knife in secret with a 20% interest rate from the shop owner. With that, he swears that after he finishes her off and restores his race, he will take his own life. From the outside, he seems like just a lonely boy, but his mind is full of plans for revenge. With a determined look, he thinks that the day of her return from the hunt is in just 3 days. Holding the weapon firmly, he decides that he will finally execute his plan of revenge on that day. But suddenly, a deafening noise echoes through the house, interrupting his dark plans. The ceiling explodes in a wave of blue energy, and the young man is completely shocked, not understanding anything. The scene cuts to the guard advancing with his sword to protect the Empress from the unexpected attack. From there, the Empress begins to attack her own people without mercy in an uncontrolled massacre. Crying, she calls them useless, but in her thoughts, the young woman screams for everyone to run away. Being forced to attack, she continues to curse them while begging them to run as fast as possible. With that, her attacks cut through the air and hit several demons who scream in pain, not understanding. One of the demons shouts that he can barely protect himself and that he feels something is very wrong. But another demon tells him not to think about anything and just run for his life from the Empress. Seeing the scene, the Empress Dowager Bai Daishi shouts for them to stop the Empress and evacuate the people. With a look full of fury and determination, the woman prepares to contain her daughter and save her people. Immediately, her guards agree and advance to follow the Empress Dowager's orders. Out of control, Chumiamiao releases a blue energy from her hands to attack the approaching guards. The energy hits the guard's head on and initiates a strange kind of demonic transformation. With that, the guards transform into Kulin demons and scream in pain from the sudden change. One of them is shocked and wonders how the Empress's power became so strong all of a sudden. Far away, Kun Ming uses his mirror to channel the power of several cores into the young Empress. With her power increased, the Empress continues the attack and unleashes a massive energy blast against everyone. The pink energy blast hits the valley head-on, and the demon people scream in pain from the massive attack. In the midst of the chaos, the demon boy uses his healing core to try to save his wounded little sister. With tears in his eyes, he says he couldn't get food but that he won't let her go because of an injury. Desperate, the young man shouts at his father and reminds him that his mother asked him to take care of both of them. With that, the father shouts for them to climb up and get out of that cursed valley as quickly as possible. At the top of the cliff, several wooden ladders are the only hope of escape for the demon people. Thus, the crowd runs desperately towards the climbing point to try to survive. Faced with the situation, the Empress Dowager Bai Dashi shouts for her royal guard to resonate with her core. Immediately, one of her guards prepares for battle with a strange energy in his body. A sun symbol appears on his back, and the young man prepares to obey the Empress's orders. Another older guard also activates his power, and a golden light begins to shine in his hand. But to everyone's surprise, the guard attacks the Empress with several blasts of golden energy. The blasts merge in the air and form a very complex and bright geometric pattern. From there, the attack transforms into a gigantic energy trap called the Empress's Matrix. With that, the guard shouts for the rat hiding behind the Empress to stop, as he has watched her grow up. He reveals that this is a high-level magic to protect the Empress, and that the barrier cannot be broken. Kumiamio continues to attack relentlessly, but the golden barrier prevents her from hurting anyone. The attacks crash against the barrier and dissipate without causing any damage to anyone outside. Far away, Kunming is surprised by the magic's power and realizes he really can't break it. The Empress Dowager Bai Di Shi tells her daughter that now is the time for the demon race to develop. With tears in her eyes, the young woman says she knows how much her mother loves the race and has worked for it. Faced with the situation, the Empress Dowager swears she will not let anyone harm her daughter and her people. Kunming gets angry and decides to control the Empress Dowager to attack the golden energy barrier. Meanwhile, in the human world, life goes on as normal, with people having fun at a night festival. A group of ladies dances lively with red fans, not caring about the approaching war. At a food stall, a boy orders a super spicy dish to enjoy the festival night. A couple dances together in the middle of the street, while their friends watch them with smiles on their faces. But suddenly, a massive explosion occurs in the middle of the city, startling everyone present. The civilians stare at the sky, shocked by the explosion, not understanding what the heck is happening. Back in the valley, the demon boy shouts for a stupid human to stop staring and call his guard. The red smoke from the explosion dissipates and reveals a group of demons advancing against the humans. In the midst of the smoke, the figure of Kumiamiao appears, completely covered in a black goo. With a dirty face, the young woman calls for her mother, who has been defeated and is lying on the ground with the guards. The Empress Dowager calls for her daughter with her last bit of strength, while the other guards are lifeless. The humans scream in terror at the demonic power and ask for the Underworld King's palace to be notified. With a wicked smile, Kunming continues to control the young Empress with his magic mirror. Thus, the girl summons a gigantic blue energy creature to attack the human city. The demon people run in terror from the magic that advances relentlessly, destroying everything in its path. The creature reveals itself to be a huge Killing dragon, and the humans scream in terror at its appearance. With its shining scales, the creature is colossal and prepares to attack the city with everything it has. From there, the creature explodes in a shower of blue energy flowers that hits the demons. The attack hits the demon people head-on, and they scream in pain from the Empress's powerful magic. Our protagonist decides he will act that day and prepares for his revenge against the woman. Suddenly, a deafening noise echoes through the house, interrupting his plans once and for all. From there, the ceiling explodes in a wave of blue energy, and the young man is shocked by the scene. From the midst of the dust, Xia Rui appears desperately and shouts for little Tian to run as fast as possible. Our protagonist turns around, surprised, and is completely shocked by the woman's sudden appearance. With a swift movement, the woman grabs him and pulls him close, preparing to protect him from the attack. From there, the wave of blue energy hits Xia Rui's back head on with absurd force. Seeing the scene, our protagonist screams desperately for his mother, his face full of tears and terror.